Test, test, test. How's the sound? How's the sound? How's the sound? How's the sound? Can everybody hear me? How's the sound? Had to take care of some updates on the computer, so things are a little fun to get back up and running. Had to take care of some updates on the computer, so everything will work in a second. A little fun to get back up and running. To take care of some updates on the computer. There's some mad updates that need to take place, so that's why a little fun to get back up and running. To take care of some updates on the computer. There's some mad updates that need to take place, so that's why there's a new version of VS Code that just came out or something. There's some mad updates that need to take place, so this might get interesting. That's why there's a new version of let me check to see if there's some mad updates. What's going on with my settings here? That's why there's a new version of so I have desktop audio. Hang on, let me turn that off. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Desktop audio. Hang on, let me turn that on. I gotta unplug something. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Desktop audio. Hang on, let me turn that on. And I gotta mute it, don't I? Test, test, test. There we go. Sorry about that. So it looks like I got everything up and ready to run here. We'll see what happens in a minute. Let me just start staging things around here so that we can work with them. Okay, it looks like we're getting close. So there were a couple questions that came up on Discord over the last couple days. We're probably gonna see if we can address each one of them while I try and hide all the stuff I tore out to switch cameras and then find out that the camera's working. Let me make sure I don't have the echo still on. Okay, that's taken care of. Let me check the clock. Pour some orange juice. Let's see, where's Discord? Oh, looks like I gotta download something here. See if there's any other config files in here. And somebody else had another question. Let's try that one. And let me go see what they are. Okay, let's check the clock, and I should be starting in 2 seconds. Okay, sorry about that. I was reading through some Discord stuff. So a couple of people have said they've had issues with steppers again. So let me turn up the light here a little. I've been messing with the camera, so things might seem kind of weird. Let me make sure autofocus isn't on, or light. There we go. So today we're gonna look at a couple of different issues. They might be the same issues, but we'll find out. So what happened was I got a couple of people asking questions on Discord, and I'll show you what it looks like here. So if I go over to Discord for a moment, apparently somebody had an issue. Their serial port for their display was not working right. So we're going to look at that real quick. That was the first question that I got yesterday, I think, or today. We'll take a look at that actually second, because it's the MKS sGen L, and I need to set that up, and I also have to figure out which TFT display he's using. So if he's in the chat, let me know which version of TFT35 you're using, because I know the one for MKS is slightly different. And then we have another one where someone was having issues with their steppers. So what we're going to do is, I believe this is the stepper one that I just pulled down, but I'm going to delete these all real quick and pull down a new one. So let me go back over to here. I'm going to pull down their config and also their config advanced, and we'll take a look and see what we got here. So if I minimize this, we have an unzipped version already, but I need to check the version number. So what I'm going to do is first go to configuration.h, and I'll pull it over to the other screen so you can see what I'm doing. I want to just verify what version he's working with. This one looks like it's 2.0.1, or I'm sorry, 9.1. So let's check to see what the current Marlin is that I downloaded just before. So if we go in here, we can check, and we can see which version he's working with. So I probably just scrolled past it here. Well, it says it's the same version for 2.0.9.1 for what I just pulled down. So we're going to assume that he's got the right version. So what we're going to do is go back up here, and we're going to just copy these And we're going to go into here. I'm not going to compare them yet. I just want to see what's going on. And I'm going to paste them, but I'll rename these .old. And I'll rename this .old. That way we can keep track of these, hopefully. And hopefully they won't affect the build, which I don't think they will. So let's paste these. Now let's go over to VS Code. Now something happened with VS Code recently. I don't know if it's a new version. It says version number, so I'm assuming. I'm not going to read through this right now, but we'll hope it works. So I'll click on the Explorer, open folder. I'll go to my downloads folder, the first Marlin folder, the second Marlin folder, and select that folder. This will take a second to load, and I'll check on questions while that's going on. For your information, I can't join Discord server. The invite is invalid or is expired. Let me check it real quick here. Forgot where it is, so it's going to take me a second to figure out. Invite. Let's see. Apparently I don't know where it is, so it's going to take me a second to Google it. Unless it's here. Could you also do the serial setup for the SKR Pro for Windows 2? That's we're going to do that as well. So let's see. Invites. Might also be that I've gotten a little bit bigger in Discord than I planned, so that might also be another issue. Apparently I don't know where my own stuff is anymore, so I'll have to search around for it. Huh. Sorry about that, I'm just going off on a tangent here. So let me go back and check on the actual VS Code, and we'll worry about that in a couple minutes. Hey, how's it going? R404A. So right now I know that our configuration is different, first of all, because we know it's default for Mega. So I'm going to go over to Marlin source, or excuse me, I'm going to go over to Marlin configuration.h. and I'm going to look for what the motherboard type is in this file. So it looks like it's the Big Tree Tech SKR Pro. So that means we're going to have to go over to source, or excuse me, not source, over to the INI, and I believe it's STM32F. So let's see if it's in here. So it's SKR_Pro, and there it is. So we'll copy that, and that'll go into our INI file, which is right here, and it'll be a default environment. So let's check to see if it'll build. First we're going to clean with the little garbage can, and then I'll click the checkbox and see what's going on. And this may take a few moments. While that's going on, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go over to the configuration file for configuration.h. And as you can see, it says the first serial port is 1. That might be an issue as to why things are working kind of weird. So I believe this person was having a serial port issue maybe. So it's actually -1. I know that's counterintuitive, but it's this one right here. If it's 1 or 0, then it would be like the 8-bit board for the ramps. So now that we got that sorted out and it's built, we're going to have to rebuild it because it won't communicate right now. What'll happen is the serial port won't work. So I'll show you that real quick. So if I go over to my desk, let me just get you the view, and I pop out the drive. I'm going to put it in my SD card reader. Gotta pop this out. I was working on something else that I can't tell you about yet. I'm gonna pop this in here, hopefully not backwards. And then I'm gonna put this in the computer. I'll show you what happens with this, but first I want to show you what it looks like when it's working, or in theory is working, because I don't know what the state of it is right now. So let me grab the actual cord that's supposed to go to it. When I moved everything around, everything got moved about. So I'm gonna plug this in. Right now it's not on USB power, so I'm going to unplug it. I'm going to grab the jumper, move it over, plug it back in, and the power should come back up. And boy, that light is really bright. There you go. The other one's also a little bright, so let me see if I can bring that down. It's going to take a second. I got to change the color a little. There we go. Still washed out, but let me see if I can turn off one of the lights to make it better. There we go. So we have the board, we have power on it. Let's go over to Pronterface and see if it's working. So if I go over to Pronterface, this was open before we actually plugged it in, so there might be the correct COM port, or it may not be. That might be something that was there when I was working on something else. So we'll go over to the desktop for a second, and I'll type in Device Manager. Click on it. Of course, it opens on the other screen, but it's COM port 13, because the first COM port's for the computer. So I'm going to change that to 13. I'm going to connect to it. And it says printer is now online. Now I'll show you what happens. So if we go back over to here, we can look at the drive. Currently there's the last build that was on there. So we're going to copy over the one from here. So I'm going to go to the .pio folder, the Big Tree Tech SKR folder. I'm going to find the bin, right click, Reveal and Explorer. This is just the configuration from the person that sent it to me, with just me changing the environment. Then I'm going to send it to the actual E drive. So we can check the E drive to make sure it got there, which it did. So I'm going to go back over to the desktop and install it after I disconnect from here. Now, if I had Cura open, it would cause other issues because it likes to grab the port, which causes lots of issues. You've seen me have the issue probably 3 or 4 times. But let's go over to the desk. I'm going to disconnect this. I'm going to pop out the drive. I'm going to take it and I'm just going to plug it in. And I'll show you what happens. So let's plug this back in. The firmware will load. Then we'll go back over to Pronterface. We already know what the port is, so I'm going to connect. And you see how it hangs? That's because it doesn't know what port it is. So it's not going to ever connect in this case. It may not even show up in Device Manager, so let's check that real quick. So over here, it says there's a COM port, but we can't communicate with it. So I'm going to close out of here for a second. I'm going to go back over to VS Code after I pop out the drive on the desktop. So I'm going to remove the power. I'm going to pop this out. I'm going to place it inside here. And then I'm going to put this in the computer. And we'll go back over to VS Code and fix it. So inside VS Code, we change this to a -1, so we have to actually recompile. So let's see if it works with just the checkbox. And I'll check on the chat while that's going on. Well, it's getting crowded in here today. So this is going to take a few seconds to compile. And as soon as this is done, we'll pop it back in and see if this actually changes the problem. So that is now complete. Took 24 seconds. I'll work on the time in the future for this, so it'll be a lot quicker. But I haven't had a chance to actually focus on that. But let's go over to firmware.bin, reveal in Explorer, right click, send it to the E drive. Double check the E drive. So we've got the new build and we got the one we just loaded a couple minutes ago. So I'll close out of that. I'll go back over to the workbench, pop this out, plug this in, power it up. It should flash as it's loading. And so we're good there. So let's go over to Pronterface and see what's going on. So we know what the COM port is. So we're on COM port 13, as you can see. So I'm going to click connect. And now it says connecting printer is now online. So that's the issue for why it doesn't connect. Now, if you need to add a second serial port, what you're going to need to do in the instance that we're talking about for a display, let me grab one over here. So here's a display. I'm gonna lock it down so it doesn't slide around, and I'll turn off the actual light and turn on the other one, I guess, because I know that's kind of blinding, or I'll just leave it because it's not that bad. So I'm gonna put something here to make sure it doesn't slide on us while I'm working, and I'll show you the underside on a different one. I just like to make sure that I don't make too much of a mess sliding things around. So many of you have already seen me do this. Essentially, I'm just putting some putty down to lock it in place. But what I have here is the actual display, which hopefully I can bring up so you can see it in 2 seconds here. So here's the actual bottom side. For those that don't know, the TFT port is right here. Use the notch connector to connect it. Then I believe it's EXP 1, 2, and 3, but I can't see. It might be backwards. It's actually 1, 2, and 3. We're only using 1 and 2 for the actual legacy display emulation. So I'm going to unplug this. Here we have to figure out what's going on with the cord. So I need to first find the actual connection for it, which I believe is right here. And then we also have our EXP 1 and 2 or 1 and 2. I don't know which order they're in, so we'll check. So we'll go back over to the desktop. I'll pull up the browser. And inside the browser, we'll look for the TFT display, which we already know what it is. It's this one. So I'm going to actually go over to the SKR Pro folder. The SKR Pro folder again, because we already have the connections inside the display. And what I want is actual pictures. This is probably not going to be what I want. So let's try schematic. Let's see what we got. This is not going to be helpful. So what we're looking for is actually pinouts. And of course I'm going in circles here. So that's for the actual Wi-Fi, virtual COM port. So we have wiring diagram, and I believe this is the pinout diagram. So inside here, if if I zoom in, you can see EXP1's at the top, 2, and then we're looking for the TFT, which I believe is right here. No, that's the BL Touch. So you can see that I can sometimes be incorrect, or most of the time, but it says TFT right here. It says reset. That's what we're actually looking for, that particular pin, so we know how to align it. So I'll go back over to my workbench. First I'll start with this. So that's the reset pin. So that means we're just going to orient it this way. Hold the pin with your finger and then slide it in here, or you can work it in separately. Obviously I can't see because the light's turned down. So I'm just feeling around here. I might have to turn on the light just so I can see. Okay, that's not in there, so give me a second to turn on some light. Okay, the reason it won't fit in is because I don't have it in right. So slide those over. Push that down, and we're all set for that. So I'm gonna try and get that out of the way for the moment. Next, I've already marked these with 1 and 2, so the notch connector has to match. So you probably can't see the notch connector very well, but it's right there. And the notch is on the inside, so we gotta flip this, push it down, and then the notch is right here, which is probably the same. So we're all set there. So what we want to do now is just power it up, see if it's okay. It's going to say nothing's connected. There are a couple of different reasons for that. So to start with, let me reduce the light so you can see better. So click on Menu, click on Settings, go to Connection, Baud Rate, and right now it's set to 115/200 by default. So I'm going to go back, and I'm on the main screen, so we know that's the issue. So I'm going to power this down. I'm going to pop out the actual SD card, place it back in here, and place it back in the computer. Then on the computer, what I'll do is I'll fix the actual issue. So over here in VS Code, scroll down a little bit more, hold the control button and the slash, which is next to the question mark, and that will remove the comment. Now I believe it might be 1, it may be another number. We're just going to test a theory, but we're going to do it with variable speed here. So I'm going to do 115/200. So I'm going to copy that, paste it here, and then I'm going to remove the comment like before with the control slash, and I'm going to recompile. If it fails, it'll let us know that the port is not correct. I'm guessing that it's 1 because based on the previous configuration, maybe they configured it only for that port. And the reason that usually arises is because Big Tree Tech does their serial ports differently. So they do them the reverse of how I do them, or maybe other people, but you can interchange them if you so desire. It's just you got to know what's going on with each, but this is the way I prefer to do it. So you got -1 up here, and you got 1 right here. So we're going to take this out, and we're going to go back over to the workbench. I'm going to then plug this in, the SD card. Whoop. You know, it's not going to work until I actually copy over the firmware. I'll wake up in a minute here. So let's go back over to VS Code because, you know, it might make it easier to work with. Right click on firmware.bin, go to Reveal in File Explorer, right click again, send to your E drive. So now I'll pop out the actual drive. I'll go back over to the workbench. I'll pop the drive back in. and I'll power it back up. So as you can see now, you don't have that issue anymore. So if you go over here and you change the speed, you can recreate part of the issue. So connection baud rate, if you were to change it to 250,000 and then go back, it'll say no printer attached, but you can fix that particular issue by going back over to your connection and changing it back to 115,200. So that's up and running. Now I think there was also an issue with steppers. Let me check on the chat. You're welcome, Sal. Are you Polish or Russian? Sorry, it's the Vich confuses me. Because in one of my grandparents' name, it's Ski. So that's why I'm asking. But Ski is obviously Polish. Let's see. Could you also do the serial for the port for Windows? So T&W Electronics, does that answer your question about the actual serial ports? So I know there's a 8-second delay between me asking something and you hearing it, so I'll give you a moment to think about it or answer. Oh, you're from Puerto Rico. Yeah, it's obviously Eastern European, the Vich. But half my family went to South America as well, so. Anywho, let's go back to what we were doing here. Let's see what we got. We have another question that involved steppers, but I think we solved that before we started with the TMC 2209s. But if not, let me know in the chat and we'll go back and do that in a few minutes. But so I'm going to ask a question about the MKS sGen L version 2 inside of Discord either yesterday or today. So let's see if we can find that real quick. I think it's in the general chat. Obviously, I get very confused between the chats that I have running, so sometimes I miss a question. But if you address me directly with an @ sign in my name inside chat, I probably will get the message. So let's see what we got here. There was a question someplace. Let's see, the SKR, this one might have gotten solved beforehand with the MOSFETs. There may have been an issue with a loose connection, so I'm going to skip that for now. I'm going to have to find this question. So what I'll do is I'll probably pop over to the MKS one. I just got to find the person. I think they asked in BTT TFT. Here it is. I think it's up here. Or maybe not. It might be that... Okay, so this person was trying to ask a question about languages. Now, it's slightly different from the Big Tree Tech, so I'm not sure how well I'm going to answer this question, but I'll show you in Big Tree Tech real quick how they do it, and then I'll go back to the other one. So if I go back over to the browser for a second, and I go to Big Tree Tech, they have the touchscreen firmwares. If you download the code over here, it'll take a few seconds obviously to download, but you can go into the actual folder and there's a setting. Well, let me close that so I can see better. Well, let's just go to the folder. That'll make life easier. So if I go to here and I right click and I say extract all, when you actually install firmware, they have a configuration file that you can set the actual language of your choice. I don't know how many languages are covered. It's been a while. Obviously English, Spanish, French, German, Italian, possibly Russian, Polish, Ukrainian, Portuguese or Portuguesa. But this is going to take a few seconds to actually extract, so I'll check on the chat while that's going on. You might be able to. I haven't done it. I kind of avoid doing Wi-Fi during live streams only because it exposes to you what my network looks like. So I'm trying to keep that obviously private. So if you go into here, there's a configuration file. And I guess they just added instructions maybe. But there's copy to the SD card. So some of this you're going to use, some of it you're not for the root. So it depends upon what you're working for or with for your particular display, but it's broken out by TFT type. So TFT 28 would be one type, TFT 20 or 35 would be another. And then there's versions written on the screen. Obviously the one I'm working with on my desk is 3.0. So I would probably use one of these. I don't know what's going on with the multiple version types. They might be doing something special because I've never seen a B1. Oh, these are the actual subtypes of the TFT 35. So that makes sense to me now because I actually have another type or two of these. I have the E, but I don't know about the B1. So you're going to copy that to your drive, but the important part for setting languages is right here. So you'd open it in Notepad++, and inside here there's a setting for language someplace. So give me a second to find it. I'll just search on language. Let's see, touchscreen language mode. So looks like there's English and then a secondary language, so you can probably do two, but I know there's something else in here. Or maybe not. So I thought there were more than one language. There's only two, but you might be able to create one. So let me read through here real quick. So I was incorrect. I thought it was multiple languages. You can do multiple languages in Marlin, but what you might be able to do is create your own language in here. This process is kind of weird. I'd have to figure it out. So let's see if we can take a stab at it real quick. When I actually went into this folder and extracted it, there was some information in here that might be useful to open in VS Code. So let's give that a try and see if it actually works. I don't know if this will. So file, open folder, downloads. And so there's a GitHub folder, bootloaders, images. So let's try this real quick. Nope. Bootloader is probably not going to be it. Dev container doesn't have anything in it. LD scripts, boards. So let me explore this a different way. This is going to take a second for me because I'm not sure where they put it, but I'm looking for a platform io.ini, which means it's probably in this directory. So we'll go back over to here and we'll select this folder and see what happens. So it looks like it may have opened something up, and we have source code, it looks like. So what you can do in here is then search for languages. I think you can compile the individual thing right here. It's giving us a default environment for what we're building, so that makes it logical. So I'd have to explore around, but let's see if it actually builds. So I'm going to click the garbage can first because there might be something in here already. And then I'm going to try and build it just to see if it works. Obviously, I'm in unknown territory here because I've never worked with the actual build for this particular thing, but it looks like something built. So we can actually go over to this folder and see if it's in one of these. So user, we're looking for a bin folder. So I don't see one, but you guys might, and I'm just not paying attention. There it is. So there's a bin there. So if I click garbage can again and it wipes it out, then we know something's building. So let's build that one more time because it only takes a few seconds. Obviously, I'm being duplicative at the moment, but it gives me a chance to grab an orange juice. Or in Polish, I think pomarańczowy, which is orange juice. Anyways, now we could probably look around for languages. In here, I don't know where it's going to be. You're going to have to probably search for it. But there's something called language pack. So it does look like there's languages in here. So configuring them, my guess is the INI file should in theory use them, but I could be wrong because I'm not exactly sure what's going on yet. But if you look for, like, this is probably not Turkish, but it's TR, so I thought Turkish was TU. But it looks like it might be, so let's copy a word. We'll go over to Google Translate and see what it is. So we're going to do a detect language, and it's Turkish. So apparently TR is Turkish when a Chinese developer develops it, I guess. I don't know what the abbreviation for Turkish is, but I thought it was TU. But let's see if I can figure that out. If I can spell. Turkish abbreviation is TR, so apparently I don't know what I'm talking about. Anywho, so we now know how to build it. It actually exists here already. So what you could do is you can actually check to see if the default language in your particular build for platformio.ini has Turkish as the default language. It might be in here. So this is going to be a little bit difficult for me, so I'll search on language and see if there's more than one entry. There are two. So there's a language pack and there's an API or application program interface. So if we go back over to what I was talking about like 15 minutes ago, we can check to see what's going on in the folder for here and figure out why the language is, oh, I know why. Duh, it's been a while. Secondary language, you're going to copy one of these over to the actual folder, and then you're all set. But now you know how to open the source code and modify it yourself if you want to build it. Apparently I went a little too far on a tangent there. So let me see if I can set up the MKS. This is going to take me a second to reorganize the desk. So I'll let you watch while I do it. And you can post questions, and I'll try and keep an eye on the screen. So I'm going to power this all down, pull it apart, pull this out, remove my putty, put this off to the side, put this off to the side, pull this out, and then I gotta find the board. Is everybody else having super hot weather, or is it just us? Okay, let me grab a board. Let's see, maker base. SKR or MKS version 2. Let's see which display I have over here. So there's the board. Now I gotta find the actual display version for that. Yeah, it's 66 here, which I don't think is correct. If I click on the actual computer, it's probably gonna say it's hotter. Yeah, it's actually 65, which is super weird because it's been like 80, 90 with 60 to 70% humidity, which makes it even hotter. Let me dig through here. I've got obviously way too many displays, but apparently I like to make tutorials on them. So let's see. That's Big Tree Tech. Here we go. So I've got an MKS TFT 35 version 1. That's really old. Let me see if I've got the other ones. This is a TFT 32 version L40. This one I need a second to read because I don't see a version on it. But they all set up very similar ways. So there's another one. And here's another 4.0 version of L, which is this one. So I'm only going to work on the actual one display, I guess. So let me get this put away. And so the setup on this, let me change the lighting again. For this, it's actually a different way of doing it, and I believe it goes to the port over here, which is auxiliary 1, and I don't think you need to configure it the normal way because I think it works without it. But let me clean that display because I know those smudge marks are not pretty. And apparently I don't know where I put the cloth. But I'm watching the questions as they come in here. So, where is that? Oh, I dropped it. So I just want to clean this up. So essentially, what we're going to be doing is trying to make the display work and connect to this. Now obviously I'm using the wrong version. I'm using an MKS Gen L. So I got to see what they're using. So if we go back over to Discord, let's just see what I'm looking at. I want to make sure that I didn't hear him incorrectly, which sometimes I do. So I'm guessing we can look at his config file if he posted one. Oh, it's Gen L. So I got to grab a different board. This is MKS Gen L version 2. He's using MKS sGen L. Okay, here's the MKS sGen L. Obviously I don't have a drive in it right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this down so it doesn't slide all over the place. And I can't remember if this powers off USB. It's been a while, so let me bring it up so you can see what I'm doing. All I'm trying to do right now is align things so you can see them. Obviously I don't have a standoff case for this one, but as you can see on this one, it's a very similar setup process. You have a SD drive, you have your pins over here. Obviously lights turned down so I'm not easily seeing things, but they have AUX 1 on it, so we know what that is. So I'm going to flip it back over, and I'm just going to plug it into AUX 1 with its ribbon cable. So we've got that. Let's see what happens when we power it. So it looks like it's coming up. It says MakerBase. There's settings. Let's click on that. Then we have language. And then there's a bunch of languages here. I think these first two are Chinese, Japanese. There's Ruska, Espanol, Francais, Italian. But it only has, looks like, 7 languages here. So let's see if we can actually manipulate that. So we know what the version is. It's TFT 35 version 1. So let's go back over to the browser and see what we can figure out. So if we go over to here for MakerBase, we'll search on TFT 35. So we have one build here. So I'm assuming, which could be incorrect, that it's in here. So the way they do this might be different. So it's going to take me a second to figure out what's going on here. Or maybe there'll be directions. Okay, so what we're going to do is download this, and hopefully I won't be too foolish when I do this. And we'll see if there's a language pack for this as well. I'm guessing they're going to look very similar, but it's just a guess. So I'm guessing that's downloaded, so let's go to the folder. Inside the folder, we'll right click, we'll extract all, and extract. This might take a second. I'll check on the chat while that's going on. Yeah, I'll have to check on the Discord link. Somebody else in chat might also have it. Also, Discord's kind of grown a little bit large, so I don't know if they're going to ask me to change the way I do it. So we'll figure that out when we get to that bridge. Let's see, release files. So there's 3 versions in here. I may have to unzip these because they might have something else in them, but let's double check the version. It's version 1.0. So I'm guessing all 3 of these might work. So I'm going to right click on the newest version and I'm going to extract that as well. And then we'll go inside here. So there's an English version and a Chinese version, it looks like, or Japanese, I'm not sure which language. So we know that that's probably not very helpful. So I'm going to go back and we're going to look around and see if we can actually open it with Platform IO. So we'll go to File, Open Folder, Downloads, MKS, MKS again, and then we'll just click Select Folder and see what happens. Hopefully this is the right one. So there is a .pio in here. It's saying what processor type is on it. They're organizing it with Platform IO here with tags, or I think they'll call them labels as well, or there might be another name. I'm just making it up as I go here. This is the name of the output file probably. So I don't see anything about language. So let me do a search real quick here. Nothing about language. So let's start looking at folders. See if there's anything in here. Nothing about language. Probably nothing about language in here. Source files, we've got things about language. So, use other languages. So the person that's looking for it, they're probably going to have to go down through these things. So .user might be a hidden folder. I'm not sure at the moment. These are processors. Almost looks like I'm looking at a different version of our firmware. So I don't see language in there. They obviously have header files for whatever they're doing. Middleware, graphical user interface. So there might be something about languages in here someplace. You can search the actual whole thing. And then all you have to do is figure out where to place it. So finding it for me is going to take a bit of time, because they seem to name everything the same, or I'm clicking on it more than once. But I know there's search functionality inside here for languages. I just don't know what the control key is off the top of my head. So maybe we go to the root. and try and search. Not gonna work there. Edit. Find. Language. So it's in the .user UI. So I'm gonna go over to the folder because this is taking too long. User UI or user interface. Search on language over here. And then you'll start to get examples of what's going on in the folder. So inside here, you're probably going to find something for language, possibly. I am not sure, obviously. But these files you can edit as well. So whoever asked the question, I was incorrect because I thought you were talking about the Big Tree Tech actual program. So let's see what's in here. So that's just stuff for the compiler. Search on English. Language. So they may have came up with a different way to do this. But you're starting to see underneath the hood what you can look for. Obviously, we're probably getting closer or further away. But for the person that speaks Turkish, this might be helpful. All they have to do is figure out where these things are. So let's see if we can see that. Oh, I gotta go back a folder here for a second. And let's see what we got. Source. Libs. Nope. Let's go back. User. Others. Multi-language. Languages. So here it is. So as you can see right here, it looks like they got 3 different languages. It might be simple Chinese, and then I don't know what T Chinese is. Maybe somebody in chat does. But they might even have directions. So as you can see right here, they do have something about Turkish, which is number 9. So this looks like a config file of some type. So that's where you'd probably set your language. Obviously, I'm not an expert in setting it for Turkish, but this is getting you in the neighborhood of where you want to be. So then it's just reading up where you can find the comments. So it's included in main.h. So you could probably do a pound include and then just use Turkish, but you're probably going to have a file to point to for language underscore tu or tr.h, and that'll get you even closer. So let's see if we can find those. So we had English, which is right here. So as you can see, all you would probably do is this. You'd make a copy. This is just a guess, so I might be right or extremely wrong. So I'm going to paste it, rename it, and I'm going to call it TR. And then I'll go back over, actually in the editor, but I'll go over here for now. Multi-language, edit. Might do something like this. and then I build it like I did before with the Big Tree Tech. So I don't know if that helps. I know the person's been asking about this for a couple days. I can understand their irritation with not being able to set it very easily, but this will get you moving in the right direction if you watch this. Obviously, I don't translate my live streams, but I'll set it so that it can be translated. But that'll walk you through it. Let's see if it actually builds real quick. Looks like it's building stable, but it could fail. Usually I try and avoid going this deep into answers, but obviously I wanted to give it a try. So apparently it wants to flash something. It didn't look like it failed. It says success, but let's check the .pio, see if it's in there. So there is something that probably just built. It looks like a binary. That's what you'd throw on your actual SD drive and drop in there. So I don't want to talk too much about that because I don't want you to know how much I know and don't know. So I'm going to avoid that subject. So back to, let's see, Matt's having an issue with the actual link. I'm going to try it out myself right now. So I'm going to go over to my live stream. You might hear an echo. Now. I just muted it. So I'm going to go down and see if I can go to Discord here. Open in browser. Got it. New guy. Let's see. You can add a friend with their Discord tag. So my Discord tag I gotta look up real quick here. Let's see what we got here. As mentioned, your tag, username, hashtag. It'll be shown with the username at the top. Let's see if I can pull that up. Apparently I'm going to have to spend time learning my own Discord again. Or I got to upgrade, one of the two. Well, I might have to work on this one offline because apparently I don't remember where it is. But I'll try and get that link up there for, hang on, I gotta get back to the chat over here. Matt, I'll see if I can get that resolved tonight, if it's not working. If anybody else knows the answer and wants to put it in the chat, we can take a look at that. Let's see. Have you ran a K-type thermal coupler on the GTR board? I've been unable at the moment, Frank, to get my hands on one. Let's see if I can look that up right now. K-type thermal coupler for GTR. Let's see what we got. Let me make sure you can see what I'm seeing. K-type connector. So one of these. So I could probably get one of these. I gotta look at the GTR board, see what it looks like, because I think it's a plug that's different. I've got to get my hands on the board first. Here we go. GTR board. Disconnect the power on this. Let's just see what I'm doing. As soon as I turn on the camera again. Pull this out of the way. So on here someplace there's a connector. Let me turn up the light. So there's a thermal connector someplace on here. I forgot where it is, but I think it's slightly different than normal. But I can always look this up on the actual data sheet page, so let's do that real quick. So if we go over to the desktop, and I'm going to pull up the other browser, go over to here, go back to Big Tree Tech, repositories, GTR, go in here, and we got to find the manual or the pinouts. Let's first see if we can see it in a picture. Apparently they're not very good at documenting these, except saying that they're those. So here's the pins. So there's probably a K-type thermal connector on here someplace. Let's see, BL Touch, CAN bus, I2C. That's going to be the TFT. Then there's some pins down here. Not sure, I think they're power pins. So it's 3 volts, 5 volts, 12 volts. Not sure if there's a 24 in there anyplace. Wi-Fi, ICSP, USB host. So I'm just trying to locate where that is. So let's try the manual. This might take a second to open. Power and wiring. K-type thermal connector. Wiring method. Figure 4. Okay, so what that looks like is they're using, looks like ferrule connectors. I could be wrong because they're a little wide, but it connects to a K-type sensor. So it looks like they may have crimped the wires. And so the K-type connector that we were looking at over here probably wires in slightly different. So they probably clipped this and then added the actual connectors, or there's a special one for the Big Tree Tech. So I don't see one for it. Could be on Big Tree Tech. But I don't see a web link, so let's try Big Tree Tech's website. And see see if there's a K-type connector over here. Let's see, products. Thermistor and heater cable. Oh, that's kind of useless. So apparently one of the reasons I probably haven't done it is because I can't seem to find it. So eventually I'll be able to do that when the parts are available. Let's see. I think what I need to know is for the BTT TMC version 1.2 stepper, is there another way to swap the PDN for the UART pin without resoldering the resistor? If you have a BTT stepper, Matt, then you can actually just drop it right in. So I have a TMC 2209 by Big Tree Tech. I think I pushed it off to the side a second ago. I can show you what it looks like underneath. So let me see if I can zoom in on this. I may have to turn up the light again. Let's see how well the zoom works. Whoop. So that's the actual stepper that I use in my tutorials for Big Tree Tech's products. You turn it over. Obviously, it's not, if you don't have the similar stepper, your layout may be different. So I can't really say the correct way to do it based on what you have. But sorry, this is gonna look weird. But that's what the bottom of the stepper looks like. I don't recommend soldering if you don't have to. It's actually cheaper and more efficient for your time to buy another one. Obviously, I'm not trying to sell you on it. It's just, it'll cut down on the amount of mods that you have to do. But there are documents called data sheets that you can go through for each one of the manufacturers and try and do a comparison. But recommending soldering is something I'm trying to get to the point of avoiding telling people about, because it causes more aggravation than it solves. So which brand do you have, Matt? So, Matt, on the SKR Turbo it doesn't work. On the Octopus version 1.1 it doesn't work. And on the SKR Rev 2 it doesn't work. Yeah, it makes me suspect that that individual stepper might be broken. If it doesn't work on all three boards, it says the stepper's probably busted. Yeah, I know it's a TMC, sorry. But I can show you that it works on all three of those boards with the exception of SKR2 Rev B. I only have Rev A. And I don't think it'd be very interesting watching me solder for the next 10 minutes to fix it. But I can show you real quick on the turbo. Let me get this out of the way. I'll show you what the setup looks like for that. All of them give you an error. Now, the possibility that they're all broken is not likely. It might be a configuration issue. So, let me just get an SKR 1.4 out. So this is the SKR 1.4. Let me clean up the desk a little so I don't knock things over. And I'm going to zoom in on the board so you can see what I'm talking about. Or I'm going to try and zoom in. Apparently I'm a little far away. But on this board, you have jumpers down in here, and in here. Obviously, I'm saying the obvious. The reason that I do that is to try and make sure that we all start from the same starting point. So let me lock this board down real quick. Now I might have to change power supplies depending upon what I'm working with here. But you can see it's a turbo. So I'm going to lock that down. And on the turbo, I'm going to have to look up the manual real quick. So if we go over to the desktop for a second, and we go over to the browser, and go back to Big Tree Tech, you have the SKR 1.4, then you have the 1.4 inside the 1.3, pardon me. Then you have your instruction manual. Inside the instruction manual, you'll look for where it says UART. So down here, you're going to come across something that says UART in 2 seconds, right here. So that's the jumper pin that you have to be on. So let's go back over to the desktop for a second. So in order to do this, I got to pop these out. And not drop them where I can't see them. Let me turn up the light a little. Now I got a jumper floating around where I don't know where it is. So I'm going to pick this up and drop it in my hand. Put this back down. And so, like I said before, the jumper, which is over here, has to be installed. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it in. So in theory that looks correct. Next I've got to install this the way that it's supposed to be installed. So I'm going to drop that in here. Push this board down a little harder. Now when you're running the TMC, you got to make sure you're not on USB power. So if you plug this in and it powers up, that means you're on USB power. So you have to move this over here, and that would be direct power. And direct power obviously comes in through here. So I got to double check the manual because I always get these backwards with the heat bed. So I'll go back over to the desktop. I'll scroll back up and see if I can see a picture. So on the board right here we have DC in, that's where we need to go. And on my board I've marked red and black, or red. Sorry, someone on the other side of the wall is using their blender. So I got to connect these with ferrule connectors so that it's safe. So I'm going to slide this in here and tighten it down if it's already loose or tight. So I'm going to slide that in, tighten that in nice. Then I'm going to do the other one. This is not plugged in, by the way. And these are ferrule connectors that I'm using. So now we have that done. We can actually power the board up and load the firmware from VS Code. So let's first go over to VS Code before we power anything up. So if I go over to the desktop here on the computer, and VS Code I closed, so I'm going to type VS Code. It's probably going to have the buffering of what we worked with last. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to close that folder. I'm going to go back over to my Downloads folder and try and make it understandable. So I'm going to delete a bunch of things here. And delete a couple more up here. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to extract all. The reason I'm starting from a fresh copy, by the way, is so that I can avoid creating issues from other things that I've worked with. And in a second, we'll see if this works. So what we'll do is go over to VS Code and open it up. Okay, I understand you have the same pin. I'm just going through the obvious steps. So as soon as this extracts, which is about to happen now, we have a fresh version. So I'll go over to VS Code. I'll click on the Explorer, Open Folder, Downloads, Marlin 2.0, Marlin 2.0, select folder. Inside here, it's obviously on the default, so I'm just going to set up the one stepper so you can see what's going on. So I can also limit the issue to one thing that we're talking about. So I'll search on SKR underscore, and then I'll say, I think it's V1. So I can grab the turbo down here. Remember what processor it is. It's LPC 1769, which is the default environment. So I'm going to collapse that source, go to config.h, search on motherboard, paste it over the ramps, go back up here to the serial port, change that to -1. Then I'll search on A4988. Down here, we are going to use the X driver. So I'm going to find TMC2209, copy it, paste it right here, and then I'm going to search on, well, I can just scroll down to it. You have define access steps per unit. That's related to configuration advanced. So I'm going to search on 800 to get me in the neighborhood over here. Of course, I'm searching in the wrong place. And that'll bring me to the X stepper. I'm going to leave it at default current. I'm going to search on TMC debug so that we can see what's going on. This will bring us to the debugger for monitor driver status. I'll remove the comment with the slash and control at the same time. I'll find the second one, do the same. This will give us the actual command for the G code. So I'll do slash again. Then I want to do sensorless homing on this as well. So I'm going to search on sensorless. And they may have moved things around on me, so this might take a second. So I'm going to go down one. Do it again. Sensorless homing. So I'm going to remove the comment. Sensitivity in this case is for a SPI stepper. We're using TMC 2209, so the optimal number I've come up with or used from other people, being MKS or BTT, being Big Tree Tech or MakerBase, is 125. That works well for me. So that's set. So we're all set for basic configurations. None of the messing around with the hybrid thresholds or any of the other stuff. The chopper's set to 12, but we're not using chopper at the moment, so it doesn't matter. And I don't know why anybody would run 36 volts, but maybe there's something they're doing. Anyways, let's get back to building this. So I have to go over to platformio.ini. I don't want to skip a step and show you that it's LPC 1769. That's the simple way to do it. I want to show you logic behind it. If you go to the INI and you look for LPC 176X, this is where it's actually coming from, right down here. So I don't want to skip that step and make it confusing. So we're all set with our platform I/O. I'm going to do a clean, then I'm going to do a build, and before I do the build, I'm actually going to plug it in. So I'll take you back over there for a second. Hopefully we don't see any sparks when I plug this in. So I'm going to go over to the workbench. I'm going to find the cord that I'm working with, which is right here, and make sure there's no obstructions around the area. I'm also going to plug in the actual stepper, hopefully in the right place. So it's X, Y, Z, Z, E0, E1. If you're using only one stepper for Z, you have to put a jumper on it, I believe. But let me plug this in for now. Looks like there's no smoke, that's good. You just heard the USB ding, so that's good. So we can go back over to VS Code and load it this way. So I'm going to hit the check or the upload button right here. So it will build and then push to our board in theory. It may still fail. So it looks like it did fail. That's good. Not as in good, but let's see what's going on here. So there's some kind of fatal message. We've got the right LPC. It's saying something about the hardware abstraction. So let's do a checkbox, try and build it. Sometimes you have to build the second time because things are out of order. So it looks like it's going to be possibly successful. And we'll know in a second. If it does, we can hit the forward arrow and see if we can copy it to it. So it looks like it copied over successfully. We can check this actually. So if we go over to like the D drive, there it is. So we have to power down the system to get this to load. So I'm going to go back over to the desktop. I'm going to remove the power, let it power down, then power it back up, and it'll flash the firmware. And what we'll do is we'll then go into Pronterface and see how well this operates. So in Pronterface, I'm going to have to connect to a different COM port, so we're going to have to figure that out real quick. So let's see what we got. So Device Manager. Inside Device Manager, click on Ports. It's 7. So we go over to here, and we change the last 2 digits to a 7. Now, there's a lot of stuff here that doesn't really mean anything. That's okay because we've been connecting and disconnecting. But let's try connecting. It says connecting, printer is now online. So let's try the G code M122 and press enter. As you can see, it says testing okay. So far the setup is good. Let's try moving it. So let me make it so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to move it 10 and it's moving one direction. Let's try 10 the other. So that's working. Let's try homing. So it homes perfectly fine. Let's see if it moves 100. So there might be a broken stepper or there's some step that is missing in your configuration or there's something broken. Unfortunately, I don't know what it is without seeing it myself. But that's the way I set it up. We could try other steppers. I've broken steppers before where they don't work. but I try and avoid not modifying them anymore. So I hope that kind of helps. I know it's not the thing anybody wants to hear, that something might not be working, but if you see like burn marks on any of the hardware, that might be a clue that something's broken. Yeah, like CNC Maker was saying, if you tried the SKR2 first and it's a Rev A, it will fry your steppers. I've gone through that experience. There is one live stream where I fried a stepper during live stream. Unfortunately, that might have had to do with 2 grounds, but at this moment though, I just want to thank everybody for the super chats and the PayPal tips, and also the patrons that have joined. And I'm gonna get to work on trying to figure out what's going on with Discord so that it's easier for people to join if that's broken. If anybody knows what the issue might be, it's okay to give me a clue, but I'll probably figure that out in the next couple hours. And then hopefully in a couple of days I'll have something to do with Clipper. But my time lately has been limited at work, so I've been doing a lot more of my day job. But I'll show you what I'm working on right now for the Clipper. Obviously I don't have it working yet. I'm trying to find a way to present it in a way that's easy to digest. So let me power down the other thing. So I've got a Raspberry Pi 4 or 3. It's a 4. And I'm working on figuring out an easy way to show you guys how to load it. Right now, the install seems complex, but the complex part for me is finding an easy way for people to understand what I'm talking about. So hopefully in the next couple of days I'll have something that's easy to digest or understand. But for now, everyone, thank you for taking the time to watch. And please like and subscribe. And if you have further questions, there's obviously Discord, which I'll work on the link if it is broken. So thank you very much. Take care. Everyone get vaccinated if you can. And we'll catch up next Friday.